Hey, Star Wars fans and Rule of the Galaxy fans, welcome back to a special show as we head into the holiday season here with Rule of the Galaxy. It's episode 184 of the Rule of the Galaxy podcast. And you know what? I gave the co hosts the week off. I said, guys, go have fun with your families, prepare for the holiday season. We're going to bring in some big time gamers here, but we're going to bring in some of the big time crew and just have some fun and just see where it goes. So, as always, you can follow us at Rule the Galaxy SW on Twitter and Instagram. Man, we need to get more on Instagram. We just don't do that. Rule the Galaxy on Facebook and YouTube. Go to Etsy.com. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the logo behind me. Get some hats, shirts, sweatshirts with our cool Rule the Galaxy logo. Just type in Rule the Galaxy, all one word. You'll find us on there. And last but not least, you can email us at ruletheGalaxySW@gmail.com. But again, it's a special show, chapter 184. We're going to go around the room, introduce some of our regular co-hosts, some regular surprise guests, and we'll start off with Mr. Adam Bray, who's presently sitting in a greenhouse. Adam, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm in it's kind of nice here because I'm in northern Michigan and there's snow on the ground already. So it's nice to have all these tropical plants around me. It feels kind of like I'm in a space station in their garden room. So I don't know. I might this might become a habit. It's kind of fun.
All right. What was that movie that Chris Pratt and the girl from Jennifer Lawrence?
Oh.
Was that where they were stuck in the ship and they
Oh yeah,
they had all the plants and everything with them. They were going somewhere out and they woke up accidentally. So
yeah.
That's what it reminds me of behind you right there. A little bit of that. You said Star Trek, but
yeah.
I could go with that. But we're glad you're here, and I know you've been doing a lot of stuff recently. So we'll have you talk about some of the book signings and some of the things you've been doing recently, and some new re-releases and things of your books. But we'll move on to one of our other guys who's been on the show quite a few times, Mr. Scott Ryfun. I believe the most listened to man in South Georgia radio. How are you, Scott?
As far as I'm concerned, that's true. Hey, I'm great. I'm glad to be here. I am fresh off of a trip to Galaxy's Edge. Just came back. And that means that I'm Oprah tonight. You know why?
No.
Joseph Molinaro, Adam Bray, Jimmy Mack, who's not been introduced yet. You get a holiday droid. And you get a holiday droid. You get a holiday droid. Everybody gets holiday droids.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah.
Right.
We'll get you our addresses very soon. And
awesome.
Alfie, we can't tell Alfie about that because he'll be depressed. Well, thank you. We'll figure that out later on the holiday droid. So I'm glad you got to go. I want to hear the most updates on that. So we're glad you're back from that, and glad you're not covering elections tonight, so you can be with us. So
well, it was one of those things where there's only one race on the ballot tonight, and so I didn't want to go on the air for 2 hours and go, all right, it's 3,762,194, 195. 196, it didn't make any sense. It would be like Nathan Johnson writing checks out for your $1.09. So I just not a thing that's going to happen.
Okay. Well, it's good. We'd rather you be here with us.
Yeah.
So as you guys both know, listening to you, Scott, on your podcast, listen to Steve Glosson, his podcast, seeing Adam Bray show up on all these podcasts and having his books that he's written. That's one of the reasons my son and I got into doing Rule of the Galaxy as a podcast. It just hearing all you guys and all your topics and all your discussions really got us impassioned about having our Star Wars discussions. But I tell you what, the guy who's joining us now is I was telling you guys beforehand, the real reason my son Joey started the Rule of the Galaxy podcast and then left it in my hands was he was just the biggest fan of Rebel Force Radio. And he and I would talk about it every week. We go over all the discussions. We would just, what Jimmy say, what Jason say, who were their guests. And to then have a chance to meet Jimmy and Jason down at the ICC Con in Nashville, Tennessee, that was awesome. And you guys were great and sit there and talk about podcasts with me forever. So here's our special guest for the night, Mr. Jimmy Mack from Rebel Force Radio. Jimmy, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm glad you had me on with some old friends, Scott Ryfun, Adam Bray. Go way back with both these guys. As a matter of fact, Scott, thank you so much for that droid. I need that one.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
All the droids. And Scott is in the past. He has sent me droids.
I get holiday droids, and I know not everybody can go down there, and I'm down there every holiday. So I just figure there are people that I know would appreciate those, the three and 3/4 collectors, what little 3 and 3/4 there is in existence. And I figure that's a good supplement for everybody.
Yeah. I love them. I have a whole bunch of those droids.
Now, Jimmy, you never responded to an email I sent you a while back.
Oh boy.
No.
Now, usually you
goes.
do, but there's one you didn't.
Sure. Okay. Well, obviously, it slipped through the cracks. So
This is and when I'm about to tell you what it is, then maybe that's an appropriate turn of phrase. I sent you audio of me in the bathroom.
Oh gosh.
No, see, I would remember this.
Here.
I have no recollection of this ever happening.
So they say. Now, it was one day, I think it was this summer, I was in Galaxy's Edge, and I'm in the bathroom, and I noticed that they had everything's in world there, and I noticed that the audio that they pipe through in the bathroom is in world, in universe.
Yeah, right.
And it got to the point where I was by myself in the bathroom, and I noticed there was some kind of an intergalactic Star Wars-y sporting event going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I fired up the iPhone, and my wife's, of course, outside waiting on me to come out. And I held it up to the speaker for probably, I don't know, a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And I got just pure, undiluted, unabashed Star Wars bathroom audio.
Oh, yeah.
And I sent you that file.
I just found it.
Okay.
Oh
this
my
was a
gosh.
while ago, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, obviously I missed this. But,
I figured you, the Star Wars audio archivist, would appreciate the Star Wars bathroom audio.
Oh, well, I'm taking this down into the lab. And I'm going to put it through.
I'd love to hear some hot flatulence.
No, this is great. This is great. I appreciate this. So
Yeah.
I'll follow up on this on Rebel Force Radio.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah. I would maybe wear gloves since it's been in the bathroom with Scott. Wear gloves as you're prepping it for the show.
Speaking of Galaxy's Edge, an RFR listener was just there, and he sent me this cool medallion, Rise of the Resistance. Have you guys seen this?
No.
I haven't seen that medallion. I was just there. I rode that twice the other day.
It's like Poe Dameron's helmet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting stylized version of it. It's
I'll
cool.
tell
It's
you.
a great ride, So I appreciate that because I didn't have any merch from that specific ride.
I've got a magic band.
When you first pulled that up on the screen, and for our listeners, the first thing came in my head is it looked like the amulet from, or the item from Indiana Jones, where he put it on top of
headpiece
the
of the staff of Ra.
Yeah.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put this in the oven at 400 for 20 minutes. And then I'm going to reach in, I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to press it in there.
That'll be your next tattoo.
I'll be ready for the next Indiana Jones movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just hold it up, and nobody will be able to. I'll be so scarred, but they'll be like, "Oh, now that's dedication. That's dedication to Indiana Jones fandom." But little will they realize it's actually Rise of the Resistance,
And
sequel era Star Wars stuff.
Then if you follow it up with the nunchucks that you hang your jacket on, then you're really in. I think that's, you got to go to that next level.
I thought we saw young Tote in the trailer.
Yeah, it's not him. It's somebody else.
Not him. No. My buddy FJ told me it's not him.
Yeah.
So,
but he had the look.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? That brings up one of my first topics. So I'm glad we actually went down that path, and I didn't even know I was going to do it, but I did it. So Indiana Jones trailer comes out. We see the de-aging again of Harrison Ford and making the Indiana Jones. I'll start around the room. Does that lead into a de-aged Harrison Ford in Star Wars? Adam Bray, what do you think?
Sure. Yeah. If they do it to Mark Hamill, sure they'll do it to Harrison Ford.
Okay.
I think we'll see Carrie Fisher regardless of what they've said before.
Okay, so we've got a yes positive on there. Mr. Bray, what do you think? A DH Harrison Ford, whether it's in The Mandalorian or something in that time frame, your thoughts?
Right?
Just answered.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
mean,
sorry. I
Ryfun?
meant Mr. Ryfun. I'm sorry,
Oh.
Scott. Sorry.
I don't put anything past anybody. The problem was Harrison Ford's a bit of a big ticket. And I don't, it may be difficult to get him to sign off on doing it. I don't know. But I'm sure they'll have the want to. It's just a matter of whether they'll have the allowed to.
Okay. Jimmy, how about you?
Yeah.
Have you
I
seen
wish
him?
I wish they would have waited on that Solo movie until they had the de-aging process ready to rock. Then it might have been a better film, in my impression. Plus, the stand-in for Harrison needed to be about a half foot taller. But
Yeah.
only freaks like me notice that.
Yeah.
Well,
He was a little off size in that movie. But
well, they have a shorter Solo, but they had a shorter Chewie too, because Jonas is not as tall as Peter Mayhew, so maybe it balances out on scale.
I don't know. I think we did the math on this somewhere. It wasn't even close still.
so you brought up the Solo movie. I read something recently that one of the Kasdans or both the Kasdans have said they think that a Solo follow-up on a Disney Plus show would work. Are you guys open floor? Does anybody think that's the right path to go, or is that going to the well too many times, and would we have to bring Alden back for it? Anybody?
I think I mostly liked Solo. I mostly liked it, except for the way they handled Lando and his special droid gal pal. But I don't know. I think they've thrown too much away to publishing by having Kira in those comic books, and I don't know. I just don't know if I want to see this on Disney Plus. I think enough time's gone by where I'm ready to leave it in the past and go to something else.
Yeah. Kira's become a major player in the Marvel books at this point. I don't know that there's a lot of story room to go back and do Solo 2 with, involving her, but also there's a thing that's coming on the horizon. We probably is too big for this show to talk about. And that's eventually the streaming model is going to have to change. And you're not going to see a ton of these really expensive shows on all of these streamers because I think they lost $4 billion last year on Disney Plus, and they had $8 billion in profit, which means if they hadn't had Disney Plus at all, they'd have had $12 billion in profit. So, the streaming model doesn't work. And at some point you're going to stop seeing a lot of these really expensive shows showing up on all these streaming channels. And you'll see a few, but you'll see them a little more selective. They got to figure out how to make a streaming model work. Cause it's not only it's hurt box office. It hasn't helped with subscriptions. It's killed home video. It's right now a bottomless pit, but it's also not going anywhere because streaming's the way of the future. I mean, everybody wants it. It's a product that's in demand. They just got to figure out a way to make it work. And I don't think they throw a bunch of expensive shows at it in the future.
Yeah, I agree. My feelings on that Solo film are very complicated because I have a sort of unconditional love thing with Star Wars, but I really don't like the Solo movie. That's the one
Really?
I just really don't like. I felt like it was a swing and a miss on every pitch, except I did like Chewbacca. I thought Chewie was okay, but I just felt like I had a lot of issues with the film itself, the way it was shot, the muddy look of
It's
it,
very dark.
the no Harrison Ford, the timing of it was terrible. I mean, they just killed off Han Solo in 2015, and then they bring him back in 2018, and he's 6 inches shorter. That's not anything I ever wanted to see. I mean, really, it's hard to place the blame on anybody in particular. I think there were some piss poor creative choices made along the way, but I also feel like its biggest problem is it's not Harrison Ford playing the role of Han Solo, and I'm not ready for that. Talk to me in 20 years.
If they'd had a sequence at the beginning where he shows up and he's teaching a lesson to some little kids and he's like really old and he's wearing an eye patch, would that maybe help out a little?
No.
I know. Because I have a problem with the way the whole movie looks.
Yeah.
Things are backlit, so everything in the foreground is shadowy and murky, and the just like omnichromatic look at things. It missed the tone of Star Wars completely. And
It
then
looks like a 3D movie when it's not in 3D.
I didn't buy Kira could kick anyone's ass. That she's about, she's so tiny. Everyone was too small in this movie for me. Shoot it again with a bunch of NBA players or something to satisfy me. I never really thought of it, but I guess it's true. Yeah. But I mean, you have to have somebody really small playing that role because Alden Ehrenreich was small.
True.
And so I just think that's the biggest thing was the casting. And they swung and they missed. Alden was not the right choice.
Now, would you say the enemy was that? I'm blanking his name. That's how memorable the movie was.
Oh
to
yeah,
me.
worst enemy in Star Wars ever. The most boring. What did that guy do?
We had those weird lines
Dryden
on his
Voss.
head. Yeah, Dryden
Yeah.
Voss. There we go.
Paul Bettany
Right.
playing the role, probably hungover after a 3-weekend bender with Johnny Depp. I mean, I said probably, allegedly. I don't know. There was a lot of
They're
talk
buddies.
in the courtroom just a few months ago about how much Paul Bettany was partying his ass off with Johnny Depp.
Yep.
Look it up. I'm
Yep.
not making this up.
Nope.
I need to stay more on top of modern media. I just
Yeah.
Oh, the Johnny Depp.
Yeah, I would give like
that
a
was
2-minute.
hoot.
Yeah.
That was some good entertainment.
And it might be coming back from what I heard. I heard there's another case
a
coming.
sequel.
Yeah.
See, I'd rather see a sequel to that than a sequel to Solo.
Okay.
Me too.
Make
Me
Amber
too.
Turd 2 happen.
With
I got to look that one up.
Jimmy, with you being our newest special guest, I had a couple questions for you related to RFR. For those of you who are listening to Rule the Galaxy, look, if you're not listening to Rebel Force Radio, what are you doing? We should be like the little snippet you see at the candies walking in the theater at the concession stand before you go see the movie. That's us compared to Rebel Force Radio. So
sometimes that's better than a movie, though.
I'm going to say probably not on our end, but looking back at the time you've been doing RFR, how many episodes have you guys done together, you and Jason?
Got me. You got me.
Really?
Over 1,000 for sure. If you count like Patreon exclusive, microcasts, roundtables, after shows, weekly shows. But I couldn't tell you how many. It's been 17 years, 16 or 17 years, 16 years. 16 years.
I like that he's looking over to his side like Jason's over there to give him the answer.
No, I'm just kind of, it's just a tick I have when I'm when I put on a thought about something like that.
Well, that's all right. That's okay. And you don't have to hurt anybody's feelings with this, but if you want to, you can. Looking back at all the interviews you've done, looking at all the people related to Star Wars that you've had on your show, is there somebody that stands out where you say, I can't believe we got this interview. I can't believe we got to sit down and talk to this person about Star Wars, and just like you pinch yourself thinking about it.
Again, too many to count.
Yes.
Really. There have been certain moments, and there's been times. For sure, there's been times. Mark Hamill, been able to sit down with him twice. One time in Japan, which was a trip. Because what was interesting about being in Japan with all these Star Wars actors for Star Wars Celebration Japan, this was in 2008, is that all the English-speaking people tended to stick together, and there weren't many. And so I got to know a lot of the actors and people like David Prowse and Peter Mayhew and Daniel Logan, and some of them I kind of known, but that really actually built friendships that trip, and I met a lot of people for the first time there. Matthew Wood, Dave Filoni, a lot of Lucasfilm people, Bonnie Burton, Larry Noble. Oh my God, Steve Sansweet, of course. So, that Japan trip was the one when I was stuck on that plane for what seemed like a year and going through a lot of different mood swings throughout the flight. And it's sometimes saying to myself, are you crazy? Why you're flying out to Japan for Star Wars? What's the
Right.
matter with you? And I mean, less than a decade before, the idea of flying to Denver, Colorado for Star Wars Celebration 1 was absurd. That was an absurd thought for me. You don't
Right.
get on a plane and go somewhere for Star Wars. And now here I am, less than a decade later, flying out to Japan. So, but that trip paid dividends.
Yeah.
Still to this day, I think, because I think some friendships were developed there, some business relationships. Yeah, it was a really good trip. That
Oh
was a
yeah.
really good one. Ray Park was there. He's a wild man, Ray Park.
Yeah.
But but just like on the fandom standpoint, like a Mark Hamill, the bigger ones.
Sure.
Carrie Fisher was a trip. But just like anybody, just like any opportunity to be able to talk to somebody and be able to share the conversation then with a bunch of people listening, that to me is like, that's what it's all about. So that's something that I used to work really hard on. I say used to because I'm not out there hunting them down like I used to.
Sure.
But on planes to Japan and stuff, that's definitely slowed down a little bit. But
No, that's awesome. I mean, I figured it had to be plenty of them. I mean, all people on bucket lists. I mean, one of my favorite interviews you and Jimmy have done is with Anthony Daniels. I know
oh
you've
my
talked to
God,
him.
how could I leave? I
He's
didn't even mention him.
he's well, listening to his audiobook, his biography, the audiobook, and then listening to him discuss it on your show was one of my favorite things. Like that would be, while Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford would be great, I think having Anthony Daniels as a guest here on Rule the Galaxy would be incredible, just because he's been a part of everything from the very beginning, whether it's a small part or a big part, and he's seen the ups and the downs of it. So for me, he would be right up there on that list as well. So
Yeah. Now I'm glad you brought him up though, because that's very legit. The last time we talked to him, he did a Zoom call with us like this. And it was, maybe a week before Christmas, 2020. And he spent a lot of time with us and was really nice and really cool. And it was definitely during that I was saying to myself, it's Christmas. I'm talking to C-3PO on a video call like the Jetsons. If I told this to my 10-year-old self,
yes,
his mind would be blown. That years from now you'll be talking to C-3PO on a TV phone in your basement.
yeah, life has changed. My parents, I know we're all in a similar age group. My parents told me that they grew up at the time frame of the Jetsons, and so when they see the things we can do nowadays with our phones, with our computers, they were like, we're almost there. They're like, it feels like what we watched when we were growing up as kids. Now we all watched the Jetsons at some point in time, but they got the first run of it, unlike the rest of us, I think. So, so no, I appreciate it. And every now and then I'll just bug you with a quick question, Jimmy, and then the rest of them I'll just kind of go around the room. Adam, I know you had just done some signings at some movie theaters and some things in Michigan recently. Some other things as well. You had some new books or re-releases of books come out. Let us know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I just did some signings over the holidays. I've got 2 more coming up. One in Petoskey, Michigan at the local movie theater for Christmas weekend, and another in nearby Gaylord, Michigan, in their movie theater for New Year's weekend. I might even, because it's it's a whole school holiday, I might just split up the whole week between the 2 theaters. So if anybody knows anybody in northern Michigan, please come to that. I do have a new edition of Ultimate Star Wars. It's from Easton Press. It's DK has a partnership with them, so they've reprinted it, but it's a leather-bound book with gold leaf and super fancy. You know, it's the kind of thing they do like the old classics in, and you give as like Christmas presents and their family heirlooms and stuff. So that if people are interested, and they can go to my website, adambray.com, there's a link to it, to Easton Press's site there. And I don't get any money from this. It's just they can keep track of whether the word is coming from me. And that may help, you know, I hope with the future relationships, if they see that I'm a draw. And then there's a couple of books I did not write myself, but my friends at HarperCollins just sent them to me, and they're a lot of fun. So I just wanted to plug them for them. One is the Kike book of Cobra Kai. It's half a making of book and half a in-universe guide to the TV series on Netflix. It's really awesome, so check that out. The other two are Tolkien books. One is, oh gosh, I think is it The Fall of Gondor that just came out? Or no, maybe it's The Fall of Numenor. I forget. There's so many kingdoms. But a new posthumous novel from Tolkien, and the other is a illustrated The Silmarillion, which is just a beautiful illustrated book. So be sure to check those out if you're interested in Middle Earth.
Tolkien's like Hendrix, you know, Jimi Hendrix. So many Hendrix albums came out after he passed away, and Tolkien's he's still pumping them out from the beyond.
Never ending.
Tupac.
Good for
Tupac. We'll see a hologram of Tolkien soon. Yeah.
Writing.
Yeah.
A hologram will write.
I have a bookshelf over here that's filled with Adam Bray books. I can see Ultimate Star Wars, the Stormtrooper book.
Mm-hmm.
There's the like the Everything You Ever Wanted to Know book. They're all there. They're all there.
Well,
Right?
Adam
Awesome.
does great work, and if I'm not mistaken, Jimmy Mack, has he put you in a book as well? I know he slips all of his friends in there. I have not gotten into a book yet.
He'd get in so much trouble if he did something like that. Not from me, but from KK's office. You know,
I tried. I tried. There was something I remember I tried with you and Swank, but I don't think it ever made it in. Some of those things do, some of those things don't, and I feel bad. Like Steve Glosson, I've tried to get him into like a Marvel book like 3 times, and every time it gets cut. So I do try.
Yeah, Filoni actually tried to put us in the Clone Wars, and yeah. PR group was just like they weren't prepared for the shitstorm that would. Oh, can I swear on this?
You can say shit on here all you
Okay.
want. You know what, Jimmy, if we've got 5 listeners, maybe one will say something. How about that?
Well, I'm sorry, because you know, I do apply broadcast standards to what I do, because I don't want to Ryfun understand
Off prime hours, Jimmy. We're good.
Yeah.
See, I have a hard time managing that. Once the floodgates open with me, there's no putting the
What
face
was
back.
that on HBO or Cinemax, where they used to come out and say it's past like 8 or 9 o'clock, we can now show R-rated movies or something? Was it one of those paid channels?
HBO used to hold them till after 8. Yeah. I mean, that's of course after the day when HBO actually was on before 8, because there was a point in time where they wouldn't come on till at night. They'd show like 2 movies and then see ya. And that was it.
Huh. Jimmy, you showed something real quick and I cut you off there. What were you showing?
I got this. I just opened this box. It's these cool action figures. You have Ben Kenobi. That's Meat Slicing Ben.
Ooh.
Along with
Deli Ben.
Shadow
Slice
Trooper and Jawa Scammer.
Tika? Is that the
that's the one.
Yeah.
From the first episode.
Hogshead Ben.
I wasn't expecting this 3-pack to show up until March or something like that. So yeah.
Christmas surprise.
Time,
It's a miracle.
Yeah.
So Mr. Ryfun,
Hmm.
not only are you handing out holiday droids, give us some feedback here. You just went to Galaxy's Edge. Anything new? Anything revamped? Did you see The Mandalorian? Did you see Baby Yoda? What was new or different down at Galaxy's Edge?
For about 15 seconds, I saw Chewie, Ray, and Vimerati. And Vimerati just doesn't work for me. She looks like the girl who takes the tickets at the movie theater here. I just, I don't buy that she's some gigantic, resistant spy or anything. They have a new game down there. They have these magic bands. I didn't bring mine. It's still in the car. The Magic Band Plus, and I got a Life Day Magic Band, which was cool. But they have a game. It's a bounty hunter game. But and you use the Magic Band. You put it on the panel, and it tells you, here's your bounty. Go look for them. And then you walk around Galaxy's Edge, and it tells you it's literally you pay $50 for a device that plays hot cold with you. You are literally walking around the park, and it's green if you're going the right way, and it's red if you're not. And then when you get to the right door, and it's just a door, it turns purple and says, oh yeah, your guy's behind this door. Now go get your bounty. So about the first, and you go to a door, and then this Constable Zuvio guy's eyes pop up, and he lectures you about what an idiot you are and how you're not a very good bounty hunter. And then he gives you your credits and then moves on about his way. And about the first 2 or 3 bounties, you're like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then after a while you go, okay, so what actually happens here? And the answer is not much. So it's like a lot of flash, and it's really cool at first, but then eventually you're like, my feet are hurting. I'm tired. I'm getting nothing out of this. It's green, it's red, it's purple. Okay, got it. So
kids like that though, little kids.
Yeah.
Spend all day doing that. Wear them out.
That's exactly right. You wear the kids out.
Yeah, you say, hey, mom and dad will be in the cantina.
Yeah.
You guys do the hot and cold game with Constable Zuvio. Is it really Constable Zuvio?
It's whatever his species is, because it's those eyes, and that's all you see. It's like a slit in the door, and it pops. It's a screen is what it is.
Okay.
And but it pops up, and you see his eyes, and he talks to you, and again he kind of berates you, which is funny. But other than that, yeah, there's not much. There's not a lot to it. You really kind of go, okay. I didn't even see the guy that I picked up, but I saw a picture of him at first, so I guess that's him. But I'll tell you this: if the gig was to walk around and just find a door that somebody's hiding behind, I'd be a bounty hunter all day. I mean, I could make a good living just walking around. Oh, he's back there, guys. All right, we're good. Cash it in.
Okay.
Well, at least there's something new that they've added.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, and it's, it's kind of closer to that promise that they always talked about when they opened it, which was, you're going to have an interactive adventure and all of that. It is at least closer to that kind of thing, but it's still not really, it's not much.
You go with Swank. The only interactive adventure you have is standing there at that bar in the canteen.
So I have
3 times at one day.
I have to ask, Scott, did you say it's a Galactic Star Cruiser?
No, what are you, crazy?
Yeah, I am. I mean,
look, I mean, I'd love to do it, but here's the thing. We went this weekend. We always go in December. We celebrate our wedding anniversary. This is my 27th year of wedded splendor.
Happy anniversary.
And let me just say, one of the reasons we do this is because I really, really like being married. And if I pushed it to go spend $5,000 for 48 hours on Galactic Star Cruiser, I wouldn't stay married.
Yeah.
Well, it's more than $5,000 because they make you buy the beverages, the adult. And here's what I heard that's disturbing about that Galactic Star Cruiser. If you order just straight up scotch or a vodka drink or whatever, they pour it out of the soda gun. So they got their
so everything's going through the same hose?
Yeah.
Ugh.
I don't know if the same hose also
same nozzle though
as the soda gun, but it's that type of device.
Yeah.
So they have it hooked up to like a big vat of scotch in the back room, and they just squirt it out for the yeah. So and then they'll charge you $15 to $20 per drink. Drink.
I will tell you this. We did go to Space 220. Now you guys know what Space 220 is.
No.
It's the new restaurant at Epcot. It's part of Mission Space. And basically it's supposed to be at a space station's 220 miles above the Earth. And when you go to the restaurant, you have to get in an elevator, a space elevator, to go to the restaurant. And they've got kind of the giant screen panels like they have at Galactic Star Cruiser. except you look down on Earth and they've got people floating around, everything. It's cool. 3 of us went there with tip after a 20% discount. Do you know what we paid for our dinner at Space 220?
I'd like to know.
$325.
Bonkers.
Yeah.
3 people?
Bonkers.
3 people for dinner. That's with tip, but after 20% discount.
After 20%
Yeah.
discount.
Wow.
Yes. $325 for dinner.
Yeah, that's a little pricey.
Wow.
But happy anniversary.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, happy
Yeah.
anniversary. Yeah.
And they charge this stuff, and this stuff keeps selling out time and time again. Now, I know the Galactic Star Cruiser is not selling out.
No,
No.
it's not.
That
They're
one-
going to have a coupon day or something.
Oh, really?
No. But, one of the things I said, and I think I said it on the Rebel Force radio page when they were first getting ready to open it, I said the way they were designing it, it looked like if they had trouble, they would start taking Disney Vacation Club points, their timeshare.
Oh,
And then sure enough, a few months in, they announced, we're going to start taking Vacation Club points.
I see.
So that was a sign to me that they were struggling because they don't get anything out of the points.
Wow.
They're just trying to fill cabins.
They're just trying to get people in there to
Mhm.
buy the scotch out of the soda gun.
Yeah.
That is a
And the
shame.
$400 lightsabers. And yeah.
I think we can all agree we want Galaxy's Edge to be successful. We want someplace like that to be successful. We really wish they would have maybe said, who's been around this for a long time and knows what people would like? We're going to build it the way you see it instead of, hey, we're going to build it the way we want. We don't really care.
No,
What
that's
you-
wishful thinking, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, see-
that's stripping the power away from these executives, these,
Mhm.
and let's face it, the Disney Imagineers, they're geniuses for
Yep.
crying out loud. They
Yeah.
know how to build a great attraction and stuff, but it's just the guidance is misguided, to base it in
Yeah.
the sequel trilogy era. It does not
No.
have it doesn't sustain. It doesn't,
No.
it doesn't resonate with the audience.
No.
And
Yeah,
Galaxy's
yeah.
Edge has
I'm
sequel.
I'm
Galaxy's-
still struggling
Go ahead,
to,
Adam.
to care about the park, to be honest. Sorry about that.
No, you're
There's
good.
a little bit of delay,
You're good.
but I'm still struggling to care about the park, to be honest. A lot of it is like what the guys just said, that it's just because it's in the sequel trilogy, it's not in anything that emotionally resonates with me or that I even find interesting.
Have you been?
And it's also, no, I haven't been. And, a lot of my colleagues were getting invitations, my co-authors and stuff, but I never heard a thing. So I haven't been. I can't afford to go. It's too far away and it's too expensive for me. I've only been, the closest I've been to the park was several years back when Celebration was in Orlando. I did a signing in Disney Springs, which is the free park. But I didn't even, go into what was there at the time. I just can't, because I can't afford it. And then I don't care about what I've seen so far.
Yeah. I have to say that it does certainly put you in that Star Wars universe.
Sure.
There. I mean, you get placed, they built all this stuff around the Millennium Falcon. And when you approach that Millennium Falcon,
Mhm.
Yes.
I mean, really, and
Yes.
then R2 might roll out in front of you. You really just want to strip off all your clothes and start rubbing up against that little guy and you're running around naked around the place. Just it's kind of like that, super spiritual moment. where
Oh gosh.
you start
No.
body painting yourself and stuff. And it's like you've reached the peak of Star Wars. The connection that you can make, because I know this happened the first time I walked in there. I went with my family, which you do it with your family, it makes it 1,000 times better.
Mm-hmm.
But they just kind of backed off me, and let me sort of just wander around the Falcon, sort of floating. And I think my wife said to my sons, hey, just give your dad his moment right now. And it was legit though. It was
Yeah.
legit. It takes your breath away to see the Millennium Falcon. And they could have just parked the Falcon right in the middle of Disneyland in front of the Princess's
Mhm.
castle without even all the Galaxy's Edge crap all over it. And I would have been there in a second. But in that environment, it's extraordinary. I mean, it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's amazing. However, I think they missed the boat by placing it in the sequel trilogy. I mean,
Well-
that's one thing, but it doesn't like weigh on your mind when you're there.
No, but I think it suffers though from a lot of what the sequel trilogy suffered from, which was there wasn't an overall story plan for it.
Mhm.
And Disney, everything
Right.
at Disney is storytelling, and all the attractions are a story being told, and there's not kind of a consistent story being told across that land. And I think that's a big problem with it. And again, you know, sequel trilogy, there was no plan for the story throughout the whole thing. But I mean, like Rise of the Resistance is an extraordinary attraction. It's probably one of the best things they've ever done.
Mhm.
I mean, just the tech involved in that.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
melts your face.
So with all of us original trilogy guys sitting here and talking about this, I mean, one of the things I think about, you know, talking to my son, and now I have a grandson, so he's 3 months old, and it's amazing to sit there and go, holy cow, I've got a grandson.
Wow.
But we talk about it, and one of the biggest things we discuss is how Star Wars brings you back to your childhood. It brings back that feeling of that young, that energy, whether it was the comic books, whether it was with the toys, whether it was that wait and that anticipation between movies and that excitedness and talking to your friends on the playground about it and all that kind of stuff. But that's lingered now for 45 years, right? Like I was 6 when the first one came out. So for me, I'm sitting here going, I still have all those memories that still, you know, give me the warm and fuzzies when I think about that, and handing it off to my son, who will probably hand it off to his son. But looking at that and thinking that, we just talked about the sequel trilogy. Is the sequel trilogy, was it even made with the thought in mind, besides BB-8, to grab 6-year-old kids' imagination and make it something that they're warm and fuzzy about 40 years from now? I don't see the storyline and the characters doing that.
If the 6-year-old has a green hair, half a shaved head, gauges, and a giant ring through their nostrils, yes.
Here's
Okay.
something. You know, I've thought about this because, you know, I've considered that, like, is the sequel trilogy disposable for the generation that it was supposedly targeting, right? And I've considered that. And you know, sometimes I think, well, yeah, nobody's gonna remember it. It seems like Lucasfilm doesn't even want people to remember it.
Mhm.
It seemed like the Rise of Skywalker was just out there to die on the vine. It didn't get any of the kind of
Yeah.
marketing mojo.
No. But I
that-
still love that goofy little movie though.
I like it too, you know, and I'm not
Mhm.
afraid to admit it.
Yeah.
But so I think that, you know, yeah, sure, right. It's just gonna fizzle away. But then I hear my 19-year-old son say things like, I have nostalgia for The Force Awakens. And then I think about all the kids that came to my house dressed as Captain Phasma and Ray for Halloween,
Mhm.
and how it doesn't matter to them that the story was incohesive and poorly planned and didn't connect with the previous 2 trilogies. It doesn't matter to them because they were playing make believe as those characters. And that's something that affects you to your core, especially when youth slips away from you
Mhm.
and you think about the things that made you happy when you were a kid. And I think a lot of kids did connect with
Mhm.
some of those characters, especially Ray. And I saw a lot of Kylo Rens out for Halloween and stuff too. Now, did that sustain itself throughout the entire run of the sequel trilogy? No. Everything fell off the rails after The Last Jedi came out. And you can't dispute that.
No.
That cannot be
Mhm.
disputed.
Yeah.
The entire operation fell off the rails with Rian Johnson's 2017 film.
I mean, let's face it, he
Yeah.
destroyed one of the most marketable things, the Kylo Ren helmet. Let's get rid of that, right? Let's scrap that in his
Yeah.
movie, which you could have made how many more figures with that look? I mean, there's the Darth Vader look
Right.
is still from 1977. Kylo Ren could have become an more iconic figure if you don't just say, nope, we're just gonna crush that everybody just wore for Halloween.
Well, yeah. I mean, and I understand the purpose of doing it. Adam Driver's a great actor, and
Yeah.
he's got a mask.
Don't mask your guys. Yeah.
Yeah, what's he gonna do? Voiceover? No, they wanted to have him on screen, and I think that was okay. But if you're gonna destroy the mask, you better have a damn cool one, much cooler than the original, ready to go. So
Right.
we could put it on, take it off, and stuff. Yeah, but instead they glued the old one back together. What? I mean, these are
Yeah.
it's they phoned
I will admit,
episode 9 in certain ways. They just phoned it in.
Yeah.
And so the damage that
I will admit that
the trilogy is huge. What's that?
Go ahead, Adam.
I will admit that I do have some nostalgia for The Force Awakens, where I'm not sure that I have any for the 2 that followed. But I think I credit it almost more just to the hype than necessarily the movie or the culture that was created afterwards because of the movie. I think a lot of it was just the hype. And the magic of everyone excited about Star Wars is coming back. You know, I remember going to New York Comic Con just before the movie came out, and just all the excitement of finally seeing some of those hard to find products on the shelves in Times Square, and seeing you know, some of the displays at like Celebration and stuff, and you know, not having seen the movie yet, and how exciting, you know, all of that was. You know, and I'm definitely nostalgic for that period. But you know, I think one of the signs of whether, you know, and I agree with Jimmy that, you know, the kids, they're gonna have some level of nostalgia because this is just what happened in their childhood, whether it was any good or not.
Right.
But I think one of the tests is right, exactly. But one of the tests is, you know, what about BB-8? Where is BB-8? BB-8 is not rolling around. When we were kids, R2-D2 and C-3PO were still the ambassadors for Star Wars. They were going on the Tonight Show. They were going on the Muppets. They were showing up at the White House periodically. True. You know, they were with Mr. T and different celebrities. Where is BB-8? And that's nothing on BB-8. I love BB-8. I think he was probably the best thing to come out of this trilogy era. But Lucasfilm has forgotten about him. Disney has forgotten about him. He's gone. And I think that's a big test of how well this is going to last.
You know what? What would actually back up your point about that is we have the Disney Chase Visa cards, and I've got a Vader card, and you can get different characters on your card. My wife several years ago got a BB-8 card because that's one of the styles they offered. And earlier this year, her card kind of got worn out, which is never a good sign when your credit card gets worn out. And she had to go get a new one. She went to the Chase page, and they don't offer BB-8 anymore. So wow. she got a Baby Yoda because they didn't have BB-8 anymore. They just got rid of it.
What I mean, so Lucasfilm just doesn't even care. They don't care about the sequel. So why should we? I think there's an element within the story group that's trying to retcon all the different and, you know, tangential elements of the sequel trilogy. They're trying to stitch that into newer canon and stuff. But they got their hands full with that. I could connect the dots with all that stuff, but nobody's asking me to run the story group. I think it should be us four running the story group, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Well,
you know, we'd figure it out. But, you know, corporations, there's a lot of moving parts. So, and there's a lot of voices at the table, and sometimes not necessarily the right voices at the table. And so that's what's going on with the direction that the sequel's heading in. Now, what could revive it all is if they did another movie with Daisy Ridley and anybody else. They would definitely want to bring back John Boyega because that guy got the raw end of the deal. No about it. I mean, he was supposed to be a Jedi.
Yeah.
Barely, you know, they just ignored that in The Last Jedi, and then barely even humored the idea in the third film. So, but
Mhm.
it's there, you know.
I-
I felt
all the
bad for him in The
pieces are
Last
in
Jedi
place.
because,
Go ahead, Scott.
yeah, he literally went from a guy who was running away from all the conflict in The Force Awakens to, and who learns to stand his ground and actually goes toe to toe with Kylo Ren and gets his ass handed to him, but he's going toe to toe with him. And then the very next movie, he's a coward and he's running away again.
Mm-hmm.
And that I don't get. They put him through the exact same paces in the Last Jedi, and it's just, he does deserve a little more than that. He deserves a little better than that. He's a great actor.
Was he really running away though, or was he going off to look for Ray? Because
I mean, he's going to look for Ray, but
Yeah.
what's Ray doing? She's not in the middle of the conflict. She's
Well-
hanging out with Luke.
And
But
speaking,
neither is Finn though. I mean, he was barely part of the resistance. You know,
Right.
he just
Yeah.
jumped on board because he knew his way around the Imperial facilities.
And he got the raw end of the deal too.
I mean,
Yeah.
every time. Poor Finn.
come on, the guy went from being a janitor to a general. Come on,
But
that's
then- Why is he a janitor? Why were they sending a janitor out to go torch that village at the
Yes.
beginning? Who sends a janitor out to do that kind of dirty work?
good call.
It's like Death Trooper stuff, man. You know, so well, we got the janitor here. He's itching to go out and torture some people and burn their village. You know, let's send a janitor.
Hey, I want to throw this out there. I recently saw something just came up the other day. George Lucas was asked how he watches the Star Wars movies. Did you guys see this? What order
No.
he watches them? He said
Asked
Sure.
him, where did they ask him this?
it was an article I was reading just yesterday. George Lucas was asked how he watches the Star Wars movies. He said 1 through 6. 1 through 6.
Well, yeah, that's how we always intended it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I was in 7th grade reading an interview with him where he said that at the end of it all, he'd like to have them shown on TV one a week, starting at 1 and working through the end to 9, or whatever at the time, or 12, or, depends on what day of the week, I guess it was.
I watch 1 through 6, and then sometimes we put on Solo for laughs. Right? You know, so, I mean, is that notable? The omission of
Well,
you
I
know,
mean,
7, 8, 9.
I think so. He
We
did
don't
not
watch that
mention
in the house.
No, he did not watch. He did
Yeah.
not mention those at all. So,
Very
but-
telling.
so I thought that was good because so many people watch him in the machete way and this way and that way, and I get it. To each their own. But even though I grew up with the original trilogy, when I'm doing a marathon, with like when we're prepping for the next movie to come in a theater, which I've got plenty of time to prep for that now. I watch them in numerical order and fit in Rogue One where it's supposed to go and things like that, right? So I just thought it was interesting that was how he said, because at first I was like, will he say 4, 5, 6 and then 1, 2, 3? And no, he went in numerical order. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But again, omitted 7, 8, and 9.
Well, it's his design, He's
Yeah.
going to stick with his own design.
Yeah.
And he had said multiple times during
Yep.
the prequels that that's how he intended it to be. He wanted the story to go in that linear fashion.
These kids with their marathons today. Here's what I remember. I bought my first VHS set of Star Wars when I was 18. My grandmother had a tradition. Every man in the household, every man in the family got $100 bill for Christmas. And so when I turned 18
Nice.
and my first Christmas as an 18-year-old, I got my $100 bill. And my
Yeah.
dad was going, you better use that for college and you better not waste it on nothing. So, of course, I was at Walmart and they got the trilogy. They're like $18 a piece. So I'm buying that. So I bought the whole trilogy. Dad found out, blew a gasket, and went back for second semester of college. And I don't own a VCR or a TV. So I've just got these tapes with me. And so one day I packed a lunch for myself and I went to the library where they had these little carols with a VCR and a 9-inch Sony
Yes.
Trinitron. And I sat and I watched a marathon in the carol
Yeah.
of the 3 movies.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
That's how I used to watch movies at the library. I remember that's where I first saw The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Ah,
I was killing time. I was like, yeah, I heard about this movie a lot. I should watch it. I just remember sitting there watching.
got a Klaatu and a Nikto in it, so you're good.
Oh yeah, all that
Barada.
Man,
Yeah.
Yes.
VHS tapes at the library. I love it. That's
One
awesome.
thing I can't do though is I mean, I very rarely will pop on a Star Wars film. Go, I'm gonna settle in here and watch Return of the Jedi. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
When I watch it is when I'm channel surfing at night, and I'll be like, oh, Jedi's on. And I'll just see where is that at. I'll be like, oh yeah. I might watch, just flip around again, come back to it. The only time I ever really pop in the original trilogy is on New Year's Eve. I always blow up the Death Star at midnight. Yep. So that requires a viewing. But if I do watch a Star Wars film now or anything, it's something new. Yeah, it's something new. It's like some sequel trilogy stuff, or Mandalorian, of course. Rewatching the streaming stuff. I want to see all the Bad Batch episodes again, refresh before that show returns next month.
Yep.
So that's where a lot of my viewing time is going. And then, of course, I'm always watching documentaries and things like that. But to say that I'm going to be like, tonight I'm going to sit down and watch Empire Strikes Back. Number one, it would be like, well, what version? Okay. See, I'm more likely to sit down and watch a remastered version of the original edit, depending, and pick your sound mix. What I like to do, the last time I watched Star Wars was I watched the remastered original print. Well,
yeah, whichever one that may have been.
The one with Biggs in it, right?
Yeah, right.
Not even close. Now he came afterwards in the special editions, but just that original one as it was when we saw it in the theaters in 77. But I watched with the 77 mono mix.
Yeah,
that's the audio to hear, and that almost gives you an entirely different movie. I mean, not the dialogue. There are very few differences in dialogue and everything.
But the sound effects, there's a lot of differences there.
Lots of differences with the sound effects, and just the overall way that it just feels more like a mix from the 70s, which gives the film more of its proper place in time. If you're going to look at the film itself as a time capsule. And that's why I think it's such a shame that the Disney company and George, I mean, it's not Disney. Disney would be releasing those original cuts somehow if they thought it could make them money. But George has always said, no. So they'll wait till he dies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
The best way we could pay tribute to George Lucas is by releasing these films as he would have intended for it. No, not at all.
With the Wolfman in the cantina.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But my son got a hold of, because my son got involved in a lot of this film restoration stuff, and he got a hold of just a fresh scanned print of an 83 Return of the Jedi, or it might have been an 85 Return of the Jedi print. And we watched that one night, and it's funny because it's so much brighter. That scanned print, it was a lot brighter than the discs that we have. Yeah. And it just, I saw so many more things in the corner and that kind of thing in Jabba's palace than I usually see. It was really neat to watch it.
Oh, I'm gonna have to now I have a mission.
Yeah.
So that'll be the next Star Wars film.
It seems like every movie, whether it's me getting older or just the movies in general, like even with Solo, like you mentioned, just everything's so much darker now. I have to watch it. I think I've heard you and Jason talk about it before, Jimmy, where you almost have to watch it a special way, special lighting, everything to see certain movies now. And it's crazy. Like I watched the Batman, right? And I got finished with the Batman. I was like, I saw maybe half the screen for the whole movie. So what happened on the outer edges and back in the dark and everything? Maybe it's young eyes can see it better than guys in their 50s. I don't know. So,
or I'll say, them Solo movies so damn dark. I can't make out anything, and somebody will say, "Well, did you watch it in Ultra HD 4K?" Like, what the hell did you just say to me? No, I watched it on my iPad.
But you know, I remember complaining to Glosson. Glosson and I had it out, and we occasionally still have it out about. I thought Rogue One was too dark, and then Solo just went way over the top with the dark.
I mean, that was done purposefully.
With
Speaking-
Solo,
Go ahead.
usually when you go dark, you're going dark to cover up something.
Yeah, all the
Yeah.
hair break.
Yeah.
Well, then they should have just put him in high-heeled shoes, Jimmy.
They don't want
Yep.
anybody to notice it isn't Harrison.
Put lips in there.
Hey,
Jeez.
speaking of Glosson, I have to know, Jimmy, because obviously listening to your show, has he submitted his song for the prison? No?
No.
Goodness
Well,
gracious.
we'll accept. I mean, masterpieces can't be rushed. You can't put a timetable on genius. And
Well,
quite
he-
honestly, the only reason I showed up tonight is because I thought Glosson was going to be here.
Well, he was supposed to be here. Sorry, you hear that, Scott? and
Jeez.
Adam?
Oh, I know.
Oh,
I'm-
Man,
that's-
I
that's
tell ya.
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping he'd show up so he'd just debut it on the show here tonight. But
Yeah, maybe he's working on the final mix as we speak.
He pro-
Feverish.
Y'all,
probably-
hang on a minute.
he'd have sunglasses on and a hat. Yeah, he's right now doing that. Hey, I did want to follow up, Jimmy, on your most recent show. You guys were talking about the article after Andor, and we can talk about Andor here in a minute. But the article, I think, stood out to where someone said that Jedis were an albatross on the neck of Star Wars, and that they didn't want to see any more Chosen One stories. And I started thinking, not seeing more Chosen One stories, it felt like it was almost like the participation trophy crowd was chiming in saying, well, we don't want anybody to be feeling special, right? We don't want the special person to have these special gifts and talents. Everyone should be the same. When I was listening to you guys talk, that was always in my head.
Yeah.
Was that kind of an idea about it. But even the chosen ones in Star Wars are very flawed and make mistakes. And it's amazing to me that was the comments that came after Andor, that not having Jedi made it better, and that not having a chosen one in that kind of a storyline. And for me, there is no Star Wars without Jedi being in Star Wars. Even I think you guys talked about it. It was a brief clip of them and a little snippet of them in Star Wars, and then a little bit more in Empire, and then a little bit more in Jedi, and then of course, boom, a full rush of it into the prequel era. But Jedi and that mythology and that mysticism play a huge role in Star Wars. If it's not that, it's just Battlestar Galactica, pretty much, right? I mean,
Right. Now
So-
that's the truth. Yeah.
go ahead, Scott. I'm
No,
just
I was
throwing
just,
that out there.
I didn't want you digging at Battlestar Galactica. That's love
I
Battlestar
enjoyed
Galactica.
Battlestar
But
Galactica.
the old,
I
the
did.
original Battlestar.
Yeah.
But I was just going to say, it is hard to say we're going to make a show, a movie, whatever, and ignore the thing that binds the galaxy together.
Mhm.
I mean, how can you do that and in good conscience and tell a good story when you're ignoring the entirety of the Force?
You know,
It is the thing that drives it all.
Solo film almost made it all the way through without having any Jedi, and then they really just like shoved Darth Maul in there at the last minute, probably fearing critique from a Scott Ryfun who said, "You do this, put out a Star Wars film without Jedi in it," and so they just kind of shoved him in there, and that was a jarring experience for me as a fan. What the hell? Because Darth Maul was chopped in half, right? I mean, if you want to go through live action mythology, and even his return in Clone Wars makes his appearance, it doesn't make his appearance in Solo any less absurd.
Mhm.
But, I don't know.
Adam, what are your
I'm
thoughts?
just saying that Solo may have been a better film without the Darth Maul shoved in at the end.
Okay.
But you know as well as I do that that's not what sunk that movie.
No,
I mean, that's like saying, well, the Titanic would have been okay if not for that little bucket of water that was sitting there.
right. Yeah,
Right.
I get that. There were definitely other icebergs in the water. There's no question about that. Yes.
Adam, your thoughts on Jedi and mysticism and saying that that is something that drags Star Wars down?
Well, we've got Andor, and I got 2 episodes into Andor, and I was like, if you didn't tell me that this was Star Wars, if it didn't have Star Wars on the title, I would have no idea that it was Star Wars, other than, if you're very hardcore and you look very closely, you see, some background aliens from the sequel trilogy, or, the outline of a ship. But that was it. There was nothing else. And it's not just the elements, the lack of droids and aliens. It's the lack of space opera, the lack of fantasy, the lack of mythology, the lack of the spiritual themes, and that truth, and the lack of fun. And I was bored, but I kept going. It got better in episode 3, and the next arc was a little better, and then we got to the prison arc, and I realized again by the second episode of the prison arc, I'm bored. I'm watching this out of obligation, not because I want to. This feels like a chore. And for the first time in my Star Wars fandom, I asked myself, why am I gonna, keep watching? And so I didn't. I stopped right there, and I haven't seen the rest of Andor. So I think that lack of, it's not just, the Jedi, lack of Jedi and lightsaber. It's just all the fundamental building blocks of Star Wars, that were just wiped away from Andor. And I wasn't interested. They lost me.
Yeah. Well, that's fair, because I think the show in general is an experiment.
Mhm.
An experiment to do Star Wars
Mhm.
in this way that's kind of outside the box compared to what we've seen prior to this. And it sure looks like Favreau and Filoni have planted their flag in a certain part of the Star Wars style. And that would be the thing that's most loyal to George Lucas. And then when we see these other creators come along, like Deborah Chow, like Leslie Highland or Headland or whatever her name is, the one who's going to be running the Acolyte,
Mhm.
like Tony Gilroy, their takes are going to be different, I think, because Lucasfilm hasn't settled down on a specific direction for Star Wars, and they're still 10 years after acquiring the IP, they're still throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and so, I'm all for experimentations and stuff. I mean, it's hard to keep going back to the same well over and over again without completely diluting it.
Mhm.
And I think there is room in Star Wars to tell different stories from different perspectives. But something like Andor is vastly outside the Star
Mhm.
Wars universe.
Mhm.
And just by everything you see in it, there's no interesting creatures. There's no creatures in Andor. See, that's something we didn't bring up,
Mhm.
is that there are absolutely no creatures. Did we see a single one, even like a beast of burden type of creature in Andor? Am I missing some? No. And not to mention your typical colorful alien species, colorful droids, bounty
Mhm.
hunter
It's-
types, all of
Speaking,
those elements, and of course Jedi lightsaber and etc.
Scott, I'll let you go, and then if you want to
No,
hop in,
I'm kind of not qualified to have this conversation because I watched the first 2, and I've got my little movie theater room upstairs, and that's where I like to watch big event stuff like that. I don't like to watch that on my iPad. I'll watch a Marvel
Mhm.
show on my iPad. I'll turn She-Hulk off when I'm on my iPad, and I like to watch that stuff on my movie theater, but I don't have a lot of time to watch TV right now. And in the fall, what little time Florida State is actually winning football games this year. So my very limited TV watching time has mostly been spent doing that. And so that's, and when I'm riding on the stationary bike, I got the tablet and I don't want to watch Andor on the tablet because I want to watch it on something big. So, I'm pretty much watching Columbo right now. So if you want to do a Columbo episode, I'm in.
Columbo.
I got Columbo down right now.
Hey, I was an extra in a Peter Falk movie a long time ago.
Which one?
Oh, yeah?
The one with DB Sweeney where they it was baseball related. Gosh. They filmed part of it in Indianapolis. So I was in the background of some scenes, but yeah, maybe Peter Falk, Columbo. Just had to tie that in there.
Sweeney lives in the suburb right next to mine.
Really?
Whoa.
Look at
Whoa.
us.
Cool.
Connecting
People
the
know,
worlds everywhere.
Yeah.
6 degrees of Jimmy Mack.
Wow. Yes. So going, there's times when people listen to our show and they'll say, well, gosh, you guys love Star Wars, but you kind of talk negative about it more than you talk positive about it.
Hey, I liked Andor.
I enjoyed it. I mean, you're right. It was a task sometimes to watch it, but by the time I was like, okay, I see where they're going with this. I mean, I actually liked the Mon Mothma segment of the story. I liked seeing the inner workings. I mean, to think that she was willing to say, hey, I'm going to follow this betrothing my 13-year-old daughter to a guy because it's Chandrillan, and oh, by the way, it's going to give me a lot of money. I mean,
spoilers, Ryfun.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, what? But now wait, did you say Chandrillan?
Isn't that right? Yes.
Is it? I mean, I'm just asking because I think that's the Starliners that Galactic Star Cruiser. Please tell me that wasn't done out of corporate synergy.
No, that's always been the case for Mon.
Okay.
Back in the expanded universe. She's always been the senator from Chandrilla.
See?
Okay.
There we go.
Nothing ever in the original films or anything, but it popped up in the expanded universe.
So for Adam and for Scott, it's not a spoiler, but it is something you'll see. It's just a small segment. They do mention Canto Bite in Andor. So,
they mentioned it. They do mention
Canto Bites.
So long story short, apparently Mon's husband has a history with gambling.
Yes.
Right.
And that's the only place in the galaxy where people gamble. So obviously.
Well, she just throws it out there.
Yeah.
Like, you know what?
Connective tissue.
Because she doesn't want him gambling on Coruscant where it, will make her look bad and everyone will see it. So she's like, yeah, go off to Canto Bite if you have to, get your rocks off gambling. It'd be like, just like how somebody say go to Vegas.
That's right. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens in Canto Bite stays in Canto Bite. Jimmy, I think that's a new shirt that Rebel Force Radio can probably put on there. So with us having some, I don't know, negative or serious discussions about things that are going on in the Star Wars universe, are there things you're looking forward to? I mean, one, I personally would look forward to ever getting back to having a movie, because on our show I've said Star Wars is a movie franchise that is okay having books, comics, and TV series, but it's a movie franchise. Get back to making good, solid movies again. But outside of movies, are there things that are coming up, whether it's Ahsoka, whether it's Mandalorian in the next season, Bad Batch, so on and so forth? Are there things you're looking forward to, you're excited about, or you say, hey, I look forward to watching this?
All of them, all across the board.
Okay. All right. Adam, how about you?
Yeah, for me, anything from Favreau and Filoni. So Mandalorian and Ahsoka, and I don't know if they've got another little show in their sphere or not. I love this Jedi Tales or Tales of the Jedi. So I hope they do a sequel. I'd love to see more of Count Dooku. We need some Padawan Dooku and Dooku with Asajj Ventress. Training her, I think that would be really great. That's really a no-brainer. I fully expect that. And the Bad Batch, I'm cautiously optimistic. I just the first season was fun. I hope it kind of continues that level or even higher. So there's things I'm looking forward to imminently. I'm not excited about what I've heard about, movies and some of the other things that are on the slate, to be honest. I've seen, I've seen misses, whether it's, I haven't been crazy about the other live action Star Wars this season, and I've just seen things come from some of the other directors and future stuff. It makes me cautious about, the other things. But what I said in the beginning, I liked, and I'm looking forward to that. So I have full confidence those things will be good.
Okay. Jimmy Mac's excited for it all. That's good.
Yeah.
What about Skeleton Crew? Right? Isn't that the name of it? That one's kind of out there. I'm cautiously optimistic. I mean, it seemed interesting, but what do you, Jimmy or Scott, anything on any of those shows?
Well, the guy who's directing it is the same guy who did those Spider-Man films with Tom Holland. And so those are pretty damn good films.
Mm-hmm.
Let him take a dip in Star Wars waters, see what he comes up with. I mean, obviously, this is something completely out of left field with little connection to Star Wars storytelling up to this point, from what we can understand. It's got Jude Law; he's a pretty good actor, and and Favreau and Filoni will be involved in it. I think it might be a good one. It might establish something entirely different from Star Wars. Is it their attempt to bring a Stranger Things kind of vibe to Star Wars with the kids? Maybe. I guess it just depends on how likable the characters are and the actors that they get to play these kids. There's so many different variables involved, but I mean, just from what we know, I think it's fair to be cautiously optimistic about it. I think we'll see it next summer, maybe, because it's already been shot.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Me either.
Yeah. Star Wars Galaxy of Fear, the motion picture. When is that coming out?
Galaxy of Fear.
No,
I'm sitting there. I'm like, what, did you hear something?
If you're going to do a Stranger Things, I mean, they did the horror books with the kids.
That was kind of like their take on the
Goosebumps. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Galaxy of Fear. Ooh.
Yep. John Whitman.
Another one that I completely forgot to discuss, The Acolyte. Where do we stand on that one? Because I mean, this is going to be a Sith-led show, from what it's saying. It's going to be looked at more of a dark approach of that. I mean, Jimmy won't like it because it'll probably be filmed pretty dark, so.
Well, that's not necessary.
But I mean, I think it's before the timing is before Palpatine, but it could include maybe a Plagueis in that time frame. Isn't it 50 years or so before Phantom Menace?
I think they said 100 years. So
100.
I don't know if you'll have
Okay.
Darth Plagueis. But you never know. I mean, that guy could be 200 years old for all we know.
Now, where is Geode in the timeline on all that?
Oh, here we go.
Life is a rock, but Geode rolled me.
I had on my list right here, Scott. I had right here, High Republic discussion ? You've opened the door. Has anybody? I read, I think, the first 2, maybe 3 books, and then it was very difficult for me to say I'm really excited to keep reading these. I don't know. Have any of you read any of them?
I have. I say with fatigue.
I remember this.
In my voice. I don't like it. I don't like it because it's too ambitious. They're throwing way too many characters at you, and in my impression, all these characters are so homogenized. They're all the same. They're all vanilla. They're all the same. Anything that makes them different from the other characters has nothing to do with the story, and it's just so hard to keep them all. I mean, I had somebody reach out to me and go, "What are you talking about? Hard to keep track of." I have no problem keeping track of the characters in these stories with help from my trusty spreadsheet. Like, I don't need, you can tell me I need to be referred to a spreadsheet to read the stupid Star Wars book. Get the fuck out of here. Now, so I did care for it, and it just like it didn't go anywhere.
No.
Where was the story? It just didn't go anywhere. They built this big shopping mall in the sky. They had a grand opening for it. Some terrorists blew it up, and that's the end of the story. That's all you got, man.
Yeah.
And there are these plants that eat people.
Mhm.
Feed me. What was
Feed me Seymour.
Audrey.
feed me, Seymour? Feed me. I've seen this movie already. So it didn't connect with me at all. However, they're doing phase 2 now, and it's the wackiest storytelling. So they're jumping back now 150 years prior to this story with the shopping mall that got attacked, and they're gonna have all these different characters and stuff. I'm like, oh my god, you guys spent a whole year throwing all these characters at us, and now they don't even matter anymore. We're jumping back 150 years in the future.
Well,
so they're doing that, and the comic book has been released, and one of the Jedi's name is Vildar Mac. So maybe they did name a character after me. I just don't know. I mean, Mac, that's pretty cool. Vildar Mac. So I'm like, okay, I'm in. I won't read the novels, but I'll look at the dumb comic book. So far, so good, But High Republic. If you're gonna put Yoda in your story, make it matter. Make it. You have Yoda,
Right.
and he's not being utilized. What is this?
Okay. I'm on your side on this one. When they first released it, I told everybody on the show, can you please get Adam Bray or someone similar to his skills to put together a nice hardback book that's just a quick bio on each person that's going to be in these novels. So while I'm reading it, I can go, which one was that again? Oh, it's this person that does this. Got it. I'm reading it, and literally I'm thinking in my head, that meme where it's got John C. O'Reilly and all the numbers are bouncing around and the cosines and the @ symbols. That's what my head is doing when I'm going, I don't know which character this was. Who does this? Who does that? Because they're putting 150 characters in 3 books, and you don't know anything about any of them. So, yeah, it's same way for me. Very difficult. And
I give them credit for trying to build something with publishing, and I think I haven't talked to anybody about it, so this is just my understanding from how things generally work. I think they tried to build something because it was so constraining trying to write stories that tied into the movies and now the TV shows, because they didn't want to be tripping over each other, and they didn't want to keep being told, no, you can't do that because you're going to mess it up for the movie. So they created this new era. So I give them credit for trying to build something new. I think that's great, but it needed to be more in order to matter. They needed to follow the shadows of the Empire model, where there were also toys, and there was a video game, and there was a soundtrack, and there were other tangible things that can pull you in from all different directions and all different medias, because there are even I didn't indulge in all that media back in the day, but I indulged in enough of it, that parts of it still resonate, these decades later, and they're still drawing from it. So they missed the boat on that. And I think if this TV show, this Acolyte, if that is building on that, I think they're going to run into the same problem they were trying to avoid, of things tripping over each other.
What I hear you
as
saying,
far as the act,
However, with both in production at the same time, I think maybe the TV show kind of sets a foundation for what publishing is doing. They have enough head start to be able to work around what is the story at that time, until the kids
if they're communicating,
and all of that. But they can be in control of that a little bit more. And I think it's just the Acolyte will connect more to the broader Star Wars universe than it will to a specific High Republic publishing initiative. I think it'll be more about the Jedi and the Sith, and what they say about the show sounds promising. It sounds like it's going to be, there's going to be a mystery thriller aspect to it, involving Sith infiltrating the Jedi in this time period, potentially planting seeds for their grand plan to have somebody, a Sith guy, take over in a big political situation like Chancellor. So that, I think that's where all of that stuff is going to come together during the Acolyte. Who is the Acolyte? Wouldn't it be great if it was like a Darth Talon or something, even though she is in the future of Star Wars? Just take that character out of Star Wars Legacy and put her in the show. I'd be fine with that. Yeah, give her a whole rebirth, just to see her all red tattooed up. Yeah. And what else do they say about the Acolyte? I've heard female centric being thrown around, but it's coming from Lucasfilm. You don't even have to say it.
Well, the Force is female, so
we get it. We get it. Right. It's going to be female centric no matter what. Yeah. We don't necessarily need that precursor there. We get it. We see Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. What else? What else have I heard about it? Well, it just started filming.
Okay.
It just started shooting, like in November in England. So it might be a case of seeing more practical sets in this show. Maybe not relying on the volume so much, because all that stuff is shot on the West Coast. I believe they have the technology in England, but maybe not they don't use it to the extreme or what have you, because Andor barely.
I was to say Andor.
Oh, yeah.
Andor did use the tech, for like outside the windows and stuff, but they didn't have characters standing in the stagecraft, walking around it like that, like they do with Mando.
Like Mando, yeah.
And Kenobi.
Yeah. Now, Adam, what I'm hearing you say is the High Republic is basically the Star Wars equivalent of David S. Pumpkins. I think that's what I heard you say.
David Pumpkins?
I don't know what David S. Pumpkins
Saturday
is.
Night Live. That's Tom Hanks plays a character, and they animated him once, but I don't get it. Like, I don't get the gist of it. But I know what you're talking about.
It's just it's its own thing. It's nothing to do with anything else. It's just there.
David
nobody
Pumpkins,
really knows
man.
why it's there.
That's
but
right.
Yoda's there. You can put Yoda in there.
Yeah, it should be something.
Use Yoda.
I started reading the comics. I haven't read any of the novels. I gave up on all the novels when one of the authors said that half the country should be thrown into a wood chipper. And I said, I said,
buddy Chuck.
no names, but I said to myself at that point, I don't think I can continue giving my money to someone who wants me dead. I'll just mail it to a rock or something if I'm going to do that. So
Geode.
yeah, Geode. And so I was reading the comics.
About he's a pariah in the realm of Star Wars publishing. He'll never work for Star Wars again,
and he shouldn't. But and I mean, and not the least of which is because of the books he already wrote. But I started with the comics, and there was a certain vibe. There was a whole Dark Horse fell into at one point, where like every story arc seemed to be the Jedi go to a planet. There's a ruler of the planet. He has a daughter who's a rebel, and there's a traitor in the palace, and he's actually with the other side, or the daughter's with the other side, and it was like the same story over and over again with different planet names and different people names. And when I started reading the High Republic stuff, it felt like that thing where they just were kind of taking the same story template and throwing some new names and new planet names on there, and maybe a new look or a new color. And all right, here you go. Let's ship that one off. So I'm still buying it, but I didn't stick with it. What's that?
Yeah, there's just too many cooks in the kitchen also with this thing. It's just like too many people are involved. It's just this big corporate gangbang using Star Wars IP. But I mean, no, Adam's right. Adam's right though. There is a purpose. They certainly are restricted with what they can do. You
Mhm.
know, I mean, but I don't know. They used to do all kind of books about Luke Skywalker.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess he can anymore. I
Mm,
mean, because Luke
What?
will show up in the
yeah.
But you know,
Mandalorian, or he'll show up in the Boba Fett show.
Yeah.
Or
but
the
you know all the, you know, everybody wants the Solo 2 thing to happen, and
not everyone.
no, not everybody. The hashtaggers want the Solo 2 thing to happen. And one thing that's never really been introduced back, because they've introduced a lot of the old canon stuff back into the new canon, they've
Mhm.
never introduced the corporate sector authority.
Right. The brownies.
Yeah, I
Mm.
want those guys back in.
Wait.
Well, what
Yeah.
What is the
Isn't Andor,
franchise that
wasn't
had
it corporate?
Brown coats.
I think something like that. I've got them back there.
Isn't there a franchise that has brown coats and they're the enemy?
Oh, that's yeah, it's one of the video game things. No, it's Serenity, Firefly,
Oh,
isn't it?
and the corporate authority, they weren't the brownies, because those are the little tiny
From Willow.
bells from Willow.
Yeah.
But they were called something, the brown something, the brown heads. It's been forever since I read
Yeah.
those Brian Daly novels.
Oh, those are the
man.
best.
I loved them. I read them multiple times.
Yes.
When I was younger, and there was a similar vibe to the Daily novels that I felt was the vibe with the Marvel Comics
Mhm.
original run.
Yep.
It was kind of wacky, kind of out there, and nobody cares what continuity it stepped on a lot of times and stuff.
You know, Jimmy, you brought up the Marvel comics. I think our show, Rule of the Galaxy, might be one of the only places you can hear a Mr. Scott Ryfun
Oh.
do the Marvel comics run in 5 minutes, where he hits every comic with at least a comment. On
Oh.
one of our most recent shows, he did Star Wars Marvel comics in 5 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
that's true.
107 issues
And three annuals. Yes.
and
Mhm.
annuals.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow.
Crimson Jack is proud of you.
Yeah.
And who was
You
the
know
girl
what
who died?
Jolly.
She'd never been
Jolly,
kissed.
who's never kissed a man. Yeah.
Who never kissed a man. Yeah. So
Moment of silence for Jolly. They were
I
like-
felt proud. I felt proud that he said, "Can I read it on here?" I said, "Hell yeah, let's go." And I've got that recorded. It's out there right now. People can check it out. I had some people who listen to our show who never have read the Marvel comics, obviously, and they're like, "What the hell was that?" That was like 1977 through 1985. Go check it out. There's a lot of them. Go, they're out there. So, but they're fun. I love those.
Oh yeah.
They're a lot of fun, and they were so hard to find for a long time too.
Yep.
Because like growing up in the 70s and 80s, it's not like there were really comic book shops.
Mm-mm.
You had the spinner racks if you were lucky
Yeah.
at a 7-Eleven or someplace.
Oh yeah. You knew which, for me in a small town, you knew which convenience stores had the best
Yeah.
racks.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you
Mhm.
know, the odds that you can ask your mom or dad to stop by there to pick up the latest comic, maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. Your odds were never that good, but they just disappeared then when it was all over with, because pop
Mhm.
culture had shelf life, and things would come and things would go. And I would just remember maybe in the late 80s, I was saying to myself, boy, I wish I could get my hands on some of those old Star Wars Marvel comics and stuff. And right around that time, the comic shops started to make themselves, they came on the scene and were showing up more and more places. And then I befriended a guy in the early 90s who owned this comic shop called Comic Collector in Berwyn. If you're from the Chicago area, you get the reference I just made. And he had a line on all the Marvels, the whole run. And he bought the whole collection, and he said he would sell me each issue $2 a piece.
What?
Yeah. And I didn't have to buy them all at once either.
Oh,
I could,
What?
come
Jeez.
at 'em when I had the spare change or whatever. So I was able to complete the collection that way. And that was the first time I saw any of those in the longest time, And it was a trip, man. It was a real trip. And like the loss of Star Wars is in my personal belief, something that really helped make it so special and precious to old school fans
Yep.
was the fact that it just disappeared for a long time after it was over. And you would think about it sometimes, like Kyle Newman would tell me, and I agree. With what he said, sometimes he'd have dreams where he'd walk into a store and there'd be all these action figures on the pegs of things that had never been released. I think he would always say the R1 droid. That was the big one he really wanted to see, was the R1 droid on a vintage card. And that still is yet to happen. Poor Kyle, though. It's because of him that the Ben Quadraneros figure was ever actually created, And that's sold so well. Hasbro went and they parted out all the pod race drivers after that. That's all because of Kyle.
Did not know that.
Yeah, it's all because of Kyle and Forcecast. We would have him on the show.
Oh, wow.
The original Forcecast that me and Swank hosted with Pete Nadel. And Kyle came on saying that Ben Quadraneros was his favorite character. And somehow we convinced Hasbro that it was legit. Like Kyle was being serious. And they heard Kyle talking on our show at Star Wars Celebration. And Kyle was just going, man, what I would give to have a Ben Quadraneros on a vintage card. And the guy who ran the Star Wars brand at Hasbro at the time, Daryl the Priest, he heard all this. And he thought Kyle was being serious. He really did. He had no idea. So he put the thing in production. He thought, oh, the fans are dying for this guy. I remember Katie Lucas once. She goes to Kyle. This is George Lucas's daughter. And she goes to Kyle, hey, that pod race driver you're really high on. I finally looked him up. And she's like, that's the guy? That guy? Joke. It was a joke. So, it's funny how things just kind of go off the rails sometimes over stupid things that a podcast can talk about, but
hey.
It's funny. It's funny the detail that they put into that action figure too, because that Ben Quadraneros, he comes with a droid too. It's one of the nicest vintage collection figures that they've made in that run. It's really highly detailed.
Yeah, we were at Disney once for one of those, the celebrations, and it was Kyle and Matt Wood, me and Swank and Paul, and who else was with us? I can't remember, but somebody just came out of nowhere in the darkness, just came out of nowhere. And he had Ben Quadraneros action figures on the card and wanted Kyle and Matthew Wood to sign.
Wow.
Because I guess Matt does the voice or something. Whatever.
That's
Ben
cool.
does like an or something like that. I think Matt does the voice of that.
Well, no, I you know what? I think Ben Quadraneros is the way we're going to tie up the show in a nice little bow right there. Oh, Scott Ryfun's got something to go with it.
Jimmy, Espos.
Espos. Did they have a nickname though? Or I
thought that was the nickname.
Uniforms?
I thought
Espos maybe they must have wore brown uniforms or something.
Maybe.
Gotta look that up.
Yeah.
You got it.
Got to do a reread now.
One of Adam Bray's books.
It probably is, Adam. Okay, I'll go around the room. We'll close things up here tonight for Rule of the Galaxy. Mr. Adam Bray, out in the jungle, out in his green room behind his house. Anything you want to hit on? Anything we didn't hit on tonight that, or anything you want to promote again before we break camp here?
Just if you're looking for a pricey fancy book, go check out that Easton Press Ultimate Star Wars. Let's see, my book signings, if you know anyone in northern Michigan, Petoskey, Michigan, the movie theater, Christmas weekend, Gaylord, Michigan, the movie theater, New Year's weekend, come out and see me. And you can get books, signed Star Wars and Marvel books from me anytime. Just email me, Adam Bray at worldsbydesign.com.
You got it. Well, Adam, I appreciate it. I feel like you got the greenhouse room there to make you remember back your days in Southeast Asia. It probably brings you back to your time living there. At least that's what's in my mind, looking at you there.
It does. I've got some plants that are from there too.
There we go. See, I knew I was getting that vibe. So
You got a green thumb.
yeah, I can't make anything grow. That does look good there. Mr. Scott Ryfun, who was able to break away from political coverage tonight to come join us and talk Star Wars. Anything you want to hit on? And glad you're back from Galaxy's Edge, and happy anniversary again. And
Thank you.
we're all waiting
Thank
to
you.
get our holiday droids.
Yes, I'm going to try to ship them out this week, and Steve will get one, even though he's not here tonight. Shaz will get one. Shaz isn't here tonight.
Oh.
He'll get one, as they usually do. But no, I'm curious to hear what Jimmy's reaction is going to be to that Star Wars bathroom audio.
Yes,
that's the biggest thing.
Sorry, I missed that.
That's no, it's fine. Whatever.
It was marked unread. It was.
I'll bet it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check this out.
But it's not like the Eopi's farting or anything the whole time. It's not, it's not, you're not. That would be great though if they just had like Jar Jar and they're going pee yusa or something the whole time, in the bathroom. But
he's another missed opportunity.
Yes, that's a great one. I love that.
You just all of a sudden you hear Han Solo go, "I thought they smelled bad on the outside."
Oh my gosh. Hey, with Jimmy Mack on Disney, I know you're listening. Please get that into the restrooms at Galaxy's Edge. I mean, come on, he's got the Rise of the Resistance amulet right there. So yeah. Scott, Adam, both of you guys, you guys have been on the show multiple times. Can't thank you guys both enough just for being a part of what we do and being good friends. It's great to talk Star Wars with both of you, and hopefully there'll be something in the near future where it's centralized location where we can all meet up and talk Star Wars and just have some fun together. And we'll even invite Steve Glosson to it, I guess. So for you two, thank you again. Jimmy, I'll let you, if there's anything you want to close with, but I will tell you, again, it means a lot to me that you would take the time, to be a part of this little tiny podcast that we do here. We run on bubblegum and shoestrings and things like that. So to have somebody like you that does the big megawatt station you do on Rebel Force Radio to come and do this, we really appreciate it. And again, you have been somebody that my son and I really started the show because of. So we appreciate you taking the time.
That I like to hear. I've had people say that to me, that, it's because of you guys we started this show. And that's really awesome to hear that. But not as awesome as Ultimate Star Wars, fully leather bound, 24 karat gold, deeply inlaid on the hubbed spine.
From Easton Press.
I don't think I have a single book that has a hubbed spine. Superbly printed on acid neutral paper that lasts for generations. This is an heirloom item. Sewn pages, not just glued like ordinary books. Satin ribbon page marker. Yes, satin ribbon page marker. I was going to make a joke about Adam's dates and the satin ribbon page marker.
Oh gosh.
And the gilded
joke away.
Page ends, superb craftsmanship. This is amazing. Do you have a copy of this, Adam?
I do. I've got one copy. They did the visual encyclopedia a couple of years ago. So this is the second Star Wars book I've done that they've done.
You have a whole library.
Nice.
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah.
I have one Easton Press book.
That's amazing.
And yeah, I have one. A buddy of mine, Jack McDevitt, who's an author, they used to do editions of his books, and he gave me one of them. And they're amazing books. I mean, really, if you're a book collector at all, they're gorgeous.
That's so cool. And it's Star Wars too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a great book, Adam, really. Ultimate Star Wars. Everyone should.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
Easton Press, you guys should advertise on Rebel Force Radio.
Yeah. And on Rule the Galaxy too.
Yeah.
There we go. Give them our emails. We'll be more than happy to talk.
Yeah.
For sure.
But,
Well, thanks, man. It was great to be on this show. It's great to hook up with Adam and Scott again, and great to meet you, Joe.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate it. It was a very nice invite. So
Hey.
I'm glad we could make it happen.
I appreciate you putting up with me bothering you and taking the time to do it.
You got to do that. Yeah, you have to do that. You know, it's nothing personal. It's just I was like,
we get it.
Rule the galaxy. Yes. And then it's like, then I guess I didn't look at an email. I guess it's not just you, Ryfun.
It's true.
Damn it. So no, but usually I try to be pretty good about emails and stuff. But I did miss a couple of yours. So but we figured it out, and here we are.
That's right.
And I hope you guys all have great Christmas and
You as well.
Likewise.
happy holidays and
Me too.
safe and fun and somehow
Okay.
you fit Star Wars into it. I want Ryfun to watch Andor. I want Adam. I want you to finish it. I might watch it again.
That's on his. It's on his Christmas list, guys. So right there, he's asked for it.
Yeah.
You got to do it.
Yes. Even
Yeah.
though it doesn't have a hubbed spine, 24 carat, 22 carat,
Or a
no,
Jedi.
It doesn't. It's not quite all the way
Yeah.
24. Okay.
not quite.
It's, you know,
Yeah.
everything's got to have a slight flaw to it.
You know, I wonder if they sell like I would take one of these if it was just like there was a little nick or there was like a little
Scratch and
smudge
dent.
on the
Mm.
page
Yeah.
or something. It's like, hey, don't throw it away. You know, I'll take it. I won't
Yeah.
tell anybody about the defect. It'll just sit on the shelf anyway.
Sometimes imperfections make him perfect. So,
Yeah. So,
guys, it has been great. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. For our listeners, remember, go follow Adam. Go buy some of his books. He's a great guy. He does great work, especially in the Star Wars world. Again, if you're not listening to Rebel Force Radio, who are you? What are you doing? Because if you listen to Rule the Galaxy, you need to be listening to Rebel Force Radio.
yes.
And for Scott Ryfun, if you don't live in Georgia, I'm sure on iHeartRadio and other things, and he's
Don't live in
all over
Georgia.
the
It's
place.
really not relevant. Don't worry about it.
How come
But-
bring back my Star Wars?
And
story?
that's what I was going to say. My Star Wars story. You need to go check out some of those because they had some great episodes, and I'm waiting for him to redo or bring out some new episodes with that. So
That's going to happen. It's going to
Yeah.
happen. I just, they just expanded my show. I'm now everyone's favorite semi-syndicated personality because I'm in Brunswick and Savannah now.
Ooh.
I've got 2 affiliates,
Awesome.
and so that has been, and they've added an extra hour to the show, and it's been a lot more work than I had going before. And once I finally get this dragon wrestled, I'm gonna try and start more Star Wars story. Definitely.
You'll get in the groove.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, again, guys, thank you. It's always great talking Star Wars. It was a lot of fun. You guys made me laugh, and you know what? Having a community like this where we're just having fun and sharing time together and talking about a topic like this is a great thing. So thank you again. For our listeners, hopefully you enjoy this show. These are great guys and great in the Star Wars community. Thanks for following us. Again, follow us at Rule the Galaxy SW on Twitter and Instagram, Rule the Galaxy, Facebook, and YouTube. Go to Etsy, etsy.com. Type in one word, Rule the Galaxy. Go buy some gear, have some fun. Good Christmas presents to go along with Adam's book. And if you want to just say something nice or mean about the co-hosts that we had tonight, ruletheGalaxySW@gmail.com. And until next week, may the Force be with you.